Hi everybody. So the idea of burning oil, particularly for light, has been with us for a long time. They reckon it's about 10 to 15,000 BC when the first oil lamps were used. Now they didn't have a wick originally. Nobody knows when, but somewhere after a few thousand years somebody thought about the idea of putting a wick in, and that made a great big difference. But oil lamps didn't change at all in their essence until about 1780. 1780, there was a chap called Argand, around the same time as an American guy called Lewis, and there's some debate about who invented it, had a think about the oil lamp. And he reckoned that if you introduced more air by using a chimney to force the air through and using a central air passage, you could get the thing to burn brighter. Turns out he was absolutely right. Now his design was a centralised wick with the hole in the centre and then a chimney on top to force the draft, and that created a much better light. It was further developed into the Bude light where oxygen was forced in there, and that gave a much brighter light, but there was a trouble storing and pumping the oxygen through. But those lights are so successful they were adopted in lighthouses the world over, and then the sounds didn't change until 1850 when the kerosene lamp came out. Okay, fascinating stuff, but what's the point of it? Well, we just made that burner for the rocket stove, remember, and we used the basic principle of the kerosene lamp to do it. Now if you look at all the oil burners where they're burning used oil and they're burning vegetable oil, then they have remarkable similarities to the Argand lamp. So the heart of our homemade Argand burner is this thing. It's a compression tee, 22, 15, 15. Now in US obviously that's 3/4 and 1/2 inch, because we're going to use this plumbing pipe and we can just slot it in there. Compression fittings because it's going to get heat and it may melt the solder. Now inside there's a little stop to stop you, hence its name, jamming the pipe all the way up. We need to remove that stop, and we do it just by filing it out with a round file. When we've done that, we can get a bit of 22mm pipe and shove it in there, and a bit of 15mm pipe and shove it in there so that it's level. And now we can tighten up those nuts. And when we've done that, another little bit of 15mm pipe in there, and then we can put a reducing fitting on there like that. That will be our oil feed. Now because it's all tightened up, the only place the oil is going to come is in that gap between the two pipes. Okay, that's the head more or less done. I mean, you know, it's copper and brass, and who doesn't love a bit of copper and brass? So I thought I'd make a nice stand for it, because remember, this thing works by the air going through the centre as well as the outside, so it needs a stand that allows some air to flow through, and I've got a 5-inch pan. I cut a load of holes in it for airflow. I've put a thing there, hole in it there, so I can put a tank connector on, and then of course I can just stick that in my tank connector, and I've got myself a pretty base. Ta-da! Isn't that looking cute? Okay, so all it needs now is its oil feed and a chimney. And for the chimney, I've got this, which is a bit of stainless steel table leg. Okay, so the fuel feed system I stole from video 1677. It's just a bean can with a tank connector and then a gate valve right there feeding into that head that we just made. This is the pipe and it slots on there. Now to get this thing working, what we have to do is put a wick on it, because this thing needs a wick. So we put the wick on by taking the outside bit and then wrapping the wick around the inside bit. Now I'm using a cotton wool ball, but there is a Kevlar wick material available, and that is reputedly everlasting, which is kind of cool. We put the wick on and then we put some fuel in it and get it lit. Okay, so it's going, and now we put the chimney on. You can immediately hear the rush, and you can actually see the flames in the top there. So, in case you wondered if it worked better. Okay, I'm actually getting worried about my ceiling. Wow, that really has some effect, eh? Awesome! Okay, that was awesome, and surprisingly, what a difference that made. So using these principles of the argand lamp, where we're creating a central airflow, we've got a chimney, we've got forced airflow under through the chimney, we get a much better burn. And the argand style is very much more suitable for heavier oils, like vegetable oil or used mineral oil, used car oil. If you want to use a lighter oil like paraffin and kerosene, then the style that we did in 1677 is a much better style based on the kerosene stove. Heavier oils, argand style, based on the argand lamp. Now the reason I've gone through this stuff is I think understanding the principles of what's going on, seeing where it came from in its history and how it's relatively easy to replicate, should give a very good understanding of what's going on and how you would improve what it is that you're building. I mean, the build itself obviously was plumbing fittings and a table leg, so stunningly easy. The size was a little bit smaller than a greenhouse heater, so a very functional heater that we just created in probably about an hour or two. Anyway, I thought I would share all that with you because I thought it would be very helpful to people designing their own stoves. I hope it was. Thank you very much for watching, and if you do get up to something, let me know. I'd be fascinated. And please remember to like and subscribe because it does make a difference.